So President Trump just welcomed refugees from South Africa, and mainstream media and Democrats are exploding. And once again, we have protesters getting arrested at the New Jersey ICE detention center, and Sean Duffy is responding to the newest issues at the Newark airport.
It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white. But whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here.
Yeah, so this is an interesting story that you really should pay attention to, because it shows you exactly how mainstream media likes to spin up stories to, I guess, trigger people. And I'm going to use Ground News to make my point here. And you guys could check out this story on Ground News yourself by going to ground.news/Devori. Now, understand something. We're only talking about 59 refugees from South Africa who have been displaced due to the 2024 South Africa reform law, which essentially allows the government there to seize land without compensation. That's the story, folks. But I'm going to show you how MSNBC feels about it, and then we'll get to the facts. Take a listen.
Well, in my view, what makes it different is that they are white South Africans. The president, in my view, has not hidden his racism behind a bushel. In fact, in his policies, whether it's removing government workers or, in this case, admitting white South Africans while denying refugee status, asylum seekers, from other countries, principally Central and South American and Black nations, to come into this country. And so I think that, this policy, while it's not surprising in this action, really speaks of the underlying message in this that disrespects and shows disdain for people of color while embracing these Afrikaners now, and also expediting the process by which they can come into the country while denying that same process to other refugees.
Now, let's get back to Ground News, where it's going to show us exactly what both sides are saying. We knew MSNBC would see it that way, but what about other media outlets that lean left? Well, here's the Huffington Post. They say that Trump gives white South African refugees special treatment. Give me a break. So are you telling me what Joe Biden did over the past 4 years? Was that special treatment as well? And here's an article that leans right from Fox News. White South African refugees brought to the U.S. due to government-sponsored racial discrimination. But the other thing you have to understand about Ground News is they have something called blind spot, right? So sometimes you'll get a story and only one side will actually talk about it. Well, Ground News will have you covered on that. And overall, the reason why I bring them up is because I want you to be able to think for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research using a tool like Ground News. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you can download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
The president made it clear that Afrikaners in South Africa who were the victims of unjust racial discrimination would be welcome to come to the United States, and he's now delivering on that promise. The Deputy Secretary and I just spoke to some of the folks who arrived on this flight, and they tell quite harrowing stories of the violence that they faced in South Africa that was not redressed by the authorities, by the unjust application of the law.
I mean, I would imagine they're just so upset. I mean, I'm talking about these leftists who do believe racial discrimination is real, but only towards black and brown people, as they would put it. When it's a white person, I guess a white person cannot be racially discriminated against according to their logic. But that's exactly what the reality is. I don't care what your skin color is. Anybody could be racist. I mean, anybody with a brain knows that. But according to the left, that's not true. And in fact, they actually want to punish these people because of the past. Doesn't that sound familiar? And here's the video footage of the refugees arriving at the airport. Family members were waiting for them. I don't see anything harmless here, unless I ask MSNBC what they think about them. Take a listen.
It's so deeply and morally wrong-headed and repulsive. These are the descendants of the people who created the most diabolical system of white supremacy in human history, apartheid. They're not directly responsible for it, but it was a system that actually moved black people off of the arable land. So they inherited the land that the black people had to give up. It was called forced removal. It was something called a Bantustan policy, where they moved black people out of the cities and farmlands into these remote areas with non-arable land. I mean, it was just one of the most worst processes ever.
I told you it sounds familiar, right? You see, in the progressives' mind, or liberals, they actually want to punish people today of their ancestors' sins. Okay? Now, doesn't that sound like reparations to you? And that's how they see this situation. So they don't support these refugees coming into the country. They would rather black and brown people come into the country first. And again, I just think the whole thing is flawed, because a refugee just means that there's credible fear of persecution and harm, even if it hasn't happened yet. There's a potential for it to happen. And what's interesting, this happened under President Obama with Yazidis and Ukrainians under Joe Biden. So this is nothing new. It's just that it's President Trump, and so they want to complain about it. And now we're ready to go to our next story, where new protesters have shown up at the Newark Detention Center. This is where the mayor was arrested. They're blocking the entrance, preventing detainees from entering, and an ambulance. Take a listen.
Fox News alert: dozens of faith leaders are protesting at the Delaney Hall ICE detention facility in New Jersey after Democrats tried to storm the facility last week. The latest from the scene: protesters blocking an ambulance from getting in. Let's go to Alexis McAdams, who is out there right now. Hey, Alexis.
Hey, Will. Yeah, another day here in Newark and another protest. This time it's not the mayor of Newark, who was already arrested and taken away in handcuffs. It's these guys right here. So there's two gates here at the Delaney Detention Facility in Newark. These are some of the faith leaders that are in front of this gate. It's one of the main entrances. So just a short time ago, an ambulance tried to come in. The faith leaders telling us that it was a fake call for an ambulance. DHS says that's not the case. They just needed that ambulance to get in. They would not let them in. Why? Because they want this ICE facility gone. They say that Tom Homan, the border czar, and other members of ICE and DHS are the ones breaking the law, not them. And I want to show you, too, Will, what we're talking about in terms of where this ICE facility is. So it's in this industrial part of Newark. You can see the large fences. It's a high-security facility, and it only opened about a month ago, so a lot of chaos and a lot of protests in just a short amount of time. Inside, we are told by DHS, it's called the worst of the worst. They're talking about MS-13 gang members. They're talking about child rapists, according to ICE, so that's why they believe they have these people locked up here. Specifically, the other day, members of Congress said they wanted to get in and check to see how those people were doing, those detainees, and they weren't allowed in at first, but they were able to get in and get that tour. So we'll see what happens next with some of the protests, Will.
Yeah, it's just sickening that this story continues to escalate, okay? We already know how Democrats see this. They claim that Delaney Hall is racist, and really it's all about targeting immigrants and violating human rights. But here is the truth. Delaney Hall is a federally authorized detention facility housing individuals with serious criminal backgrounds, including MS-13 gang members, rapists, and suspected terrorists. Is this who Democrats are fighting for? It operates under a $1 billion, 15-year contract with ICE to enforce immigration laws and protect public safety. They gave Fox News a tour. Take a look.
The person who ends up in this facility is not just that they crossed the border illegally. No. You've had to have done more than that, correct?
Right. So currently today, as we're walking through here today, there's 152 detainees. 75% of those have committed crimes, been convicted of crime, or have pending criminal charges. So
what kind of crimes are we talking about?
Unfortunately, it runs the whole gamut. So we have people that have convicted of murder, pending rape charges, fentanyl distribution, child porn distribution, wire fraud. More than 75% of the people that are here are felons. Bad people you don't want in your neighborhood.
And the mayor of Newark, New Jersey already was arrested. It says charges are on the table for those Congress members who pushed their way inside. The Congress members say they just wanted to do an oversight visit. These people say kind of the same thing, but they're not allowed to go inside. They're not Congress members or anybody that even had an appointment. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Now, the one thing that really jumps out at me so far in regards to this story is how Democrats have been crying about due process. And once, I guess, the White House is showing due process by opening up a detention center, they say, no, that's not due process. That's actually violating human rights. So which one is it exactly? And by the way, in case you guys don't know this, if an illegal alien commits a murder or crime or they rape somebody, that doesn't mean they need to be convicted and go to prison in our country. They could be deported back to their country. So it's just fascinating that Democrats want to waste taxpayer money and sending these people through our justice system instead of getting them out of here.
I know you guys have been out here. You guys did talk earlier. We're just trying to get some information about kind of what the situation is here. No ambulance was able to come in. Are you guys allowing cars in and out? And what's kind of your feeling on it?
Well, it turns out that no one called the ambulance, so it was some sort of tactic to try to get us to move. So there was no danger there. Nothing was done. We're here because it's important to stop this, to draw attention to what's happening in this facility, and we're not going to be moved. We'll be here as long as it takes until people start to realize this is not acceptable.
All right. Well, of course they're going to deny it, but here's the bottom line. All right. Delaney Hall is not a symbol of oppression, even though they want you to believe that. This is a facility about enforcing our immigration laws and protecting communities from dangerous individuals. It's funny. Where was this energy at for Lincoln Riley or Rachel Moore? And I didn't see anybody lining up. Protests that obstruct its operations undermine the rule of law and public safety. Can someone please tell them that? Now, here's the video footage of some of the protesters getting arrested. And I want you guys to pay attention to the chants you're hearing in the background.
Yo, not away, not away, not away. Ice out of New Jersey. Sorry. What are you doing?
Listen, I every time I see protesters getting involved with law enforcement in this way, I always think to myself, like, is this what you wake up in the morning and you look forward to doing? Like, do you believe God put you on this planet to do things like that? You know, go and disrupt ICE operations and get into fights with law enforcement? Please. I mean, I just don't see that to be the truth for people. But this is the choices that they make, and I'm just not seeing a return on investment here.
She didn't do anything! What are you doing? Stay over here.
Yeah, it's just a sad situation. And it's really annoying because at the end of the day, these law enforcement officials, it's not like they are the ones that are at fault here. Like, if you're really upset, you should be upset at your congressional leaders and looking for them to change the laws.
How much does it cost? How much does it cost to be a Nazi? A Nazi piece of shit! What are you on? On the radio, I was going to the gym and I had to come down here because you people are idiots. Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Watch her, watch her. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Hey!
Yikes. That's all I have to say. Yikes. I mean, these are supposed to be faith leaders, right? You're supposed to be people who believe in the rule of law, and they don't behave like it. They're over there disrupting operations, and they should be arrested. That's my own personal opinion. Now, this takes us to our next story, where the Newark Liberty International Airport has faced continued issues. This time, it led to planes being grounded over the weekend. And of course, Sean Duffy had to come out today and make a statement. Take a listen.
Over the last 4 years, the last administration, they knew this was a problem. And by the way, during COVID, when people weren't flying, that was a perfect time to fix these problems. But again, they got $1.2 trillion for infrastructure, and virtually none of it went to fix the biggest American infrastructure problem that we have, which is our air traffic control system. And so what you see in Newark, we're gonna have to fix, we're gonna move fast, but we're gonna do it right. My concern is that we could see other situations like this around the country because the system is old. It's old. And we are fighting to make sure we work with Congress, get the money, and begin this build of a brand new system as quickly as possible.
Now, listen, I appreciate Sean Duffy's effort here, but this is my own criticism, okay? I think he should stop trying to blame the last administration and focus on the real problem, and that's Congress, okay? They are the people who's actually going to slow this up. That's the bottom line. That's what history tells us. So if I was him, every time I have to do a press conference, call Congress out and keep doing it. Because at the end of the day, if he doesn't do it, you know who they're going to blame? They'll just blame him and President Trump. And it's really not their fault. It's actually Congress' fault because they're the ones that appropriate the money. And how they appropriate the money matters. So if they're only going to give you a little bit once a year, that ain't going to cut it. So hopefully somebody gets this message to him. He went on to say this as well.
They were focused on what we call a cockpit versus a flight deck. We had to change notice to airmen to notice to air mission. Right? That was the focus as opposed to you have a cracking system and let's get the money to fix it, or let's at least start the fix in that system. They didn't do that. And so I've inherited it. The Trump administration has inherited it. Donald Trump has said, we are going to fix it. We are not going to pass it off. So we are not going to do what they did. And so I fully embrace, as you can see, we've developed a plan, we've put out a plan, we've told the Congress this is what we have to do. We are not shying away from any problems, but I think it's important to recognize why we have the problems. You didn't get old cracking infrastructure in 100 days. It came from the 4 years before where they chose to do nothing. And so we're going to fix it.
And we all hope that they do fix it. But that's not going to stop mainstream media from doubting them and spinning the story. That's why I said Sean Duffy should stay away from blaming the past administration, because it just makes mainstream media focus more on that and not actually on the solution that Sean Duffy has been communicating, which is this big plan, but it requires Congress to cough up the money.
Newark's airport has been the focus these past few weeks, but as you've said many times, this is just the canary in the coal mine. It's likely that a lot of these problems exist all over the country.
It's symptomatic of a larger issue. Newark's a bit of a special case because they moved that air traffic control facility responsible for Newark flights last July from Long Island to Philadelphia. That created some newer problems, introduced some sort of failure modes into the systems. The big thing here, though, is just modernizing air traffic control nationwide. That's a huge priority of the Trump administration now, and Duffy has sort of laid out this multi-billion-dollar plan to do that. It's pretty aggressive, and he says we can do this in 2 to 3 years if the White House gets all the money up front from Congress. The other big part of the system here, it's the people. And air traffic control is short 3,000 controllers nationwide. And when you factor in retirements, there's a mandatory retirement age of 56, and attrition, some years the system only nets a few dozen controllers. So things are pretty dire.
And that's the reality of the situation. But again, Democrats will just blame Sean Duffy, and then Sean Duffy, I guess, will blame Joe Biden and the last Secretary of Transportation. And the reality is we need to solve this issue. Understand what's happening here. The current issues at this airport are the result of decades of neglect and underinvestment. Why is Congress not coughing up the money that is required? That's number one. Number two, he's right about the staffing levels. I still don't understand that one. I mean, we're crying about how we need illegal aliens in our country to get jobs so we can have a nice economy here. We can't find traffic controllers? Okay, so that's just how I see it. Now I want to know how you guys see it, particularly these stories we talked about in this video, starting with the protesters that are continuing to disrupt that ICE detention center in New Jersey. And what about President Trump granting these refugees a place to stay here in America? And then finally, Sean Duffy and his current strategy when it comes to communications. And really that it's Congress that should be coughing up the money and should be getting the heat. Let me know what you guys think about all that in the comments section below. Now, earlier today, President Trump took a victory lap when he signed one of the most historic executive orders in history in regards to bringing down pharmaceutical drug costs here in America. And that was also followed up by an American citizen being released from Hamas. But there's a twist, and you got to hear it for yourself. So if you're interested in that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.